I spent $425,000 on a seaside mansion for my parents' 50th anniversary, imagining their smiles, their gratitude. But when I arrived to surprise them, my mother looked at me and said something I will never forget. My name is Lily Anderson, and I'm 56 years old. And if there's one thing I used to believe, it was this: if you give enough love, enough effort, enough sacrifice, eventually, your family will see your worth. I was wrong. Growing up, my parents weren't cruel. They weren't distant either, but they were selective. Selective with their attention, selective with their praise. And somehow, I was never quite the one they celebrated. That role belonged to my older sister, Claire. She was everything they admired: outgoing, confident, effortlessly praised. And no matter what I achieved, it always felt like I was just catching up. Claire's always been a natural, my mother would say. You're more hardworking, she'd add, like it was a compliment. I learned early on what that meant. I had to earn everything: approval, recognition, even simple acknowledgement. So I worked harder, studied longer, built my life carefully, step by step, and eventually, I succeeded. Not loudly, not in a way that demanded attention, but in a way that mattered. I built a stable career, made smart decisions, saved consistently, invested wisely, while others were chasing fast success. I was building something permanent, and over time, that quiet effort turned into something significant. But here's the thing about success when it comes from that place. It doesn't just bring pride, it brings a question. Will they finally see me now? When my parents' 50th anniversary was coming up, I wanted to do something meaningful, something unforgettable, not just a gift. A statement, a moment that said, I did it, and I did it for you. That's when I found the house, a beautiful seaside mansion. Open windows facing the ocean, soft light pouring into every room. Calm, peaceful, perfect. The kind of place people dream about. And the moment I saw it, I knew this was it. It wasn't a small decision. Spending $425,000 is not something you do without thinking. But I didn't hesitate because, in my mind, this wasn't about money. It was about everything I had worked for, everything I had built, everything I wanted them to finally recognize. I handled everything quietly. The purchase, the paperwork, the preparation. I didn't tell them, not a word, because I wanted the moment to be real, pure, a surprise they would never forget. I arranged for the house to be cleaned, furnished, perfectly ready. I even planned a small celebration there. Nothing extravagant, just something warm, meaningful. A moment where they would walk in and finally see what I had become. The day arrived, clear sky, soft ocean breeze, everything exactly as I imagined. I drove there early, heart racing just a little, not from nerves, from hope, because after all these years, I wanted this to be the moment, the one where everything changed. They arrived about an hour later. I watched their car pull up from inside, took a deep breath, then stepped outside. Happy anniversary, I said, smiling. They both looked surprised, confused. Lily? What are you doing here? My father asked. I have something for you, I replied. My mother looked around. At the house, at the ocean, at me. What is this? She asked slowly. I smiled again. This is your gift. Silence. They didn't move, didn't react. So I continued. I bought this for you. It's yours. Another silence, heavier this time. My father looked stunned. Lily, this is incredible, I finished for him. But my mother, she wasn't smiling. She wasn't shocked in the way I expected. She was staring, studying, like she was trying to understand something else entirely. Then she said it. One sentence. Calm, flat, unemotional. Why would you do something like this? The words hit harder than anything else could have. Not, thank you. Not, this is beautiful. Not even surprise. Just a question. A cold one. I blinked, trying to process. I wanted to do something special, I said slowly. For both of you. She looked around again, then back at me. This is too much, she said. And somehow, it didn't sound like concern. It sounded like disapproval. That was the moment something shifted, because this wasn't the reaction I imagined. Not even close. And as I stood there, watching her expression, hearing her tone, I realized something I hadn't expected. This gift wasn't going to bring us closer. It was about to reveal something much deeper, something I had been ignoring my entire life. And what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about my own family. For a moment after my mother said, "Why would you do something like this?" No one spoke. The ocean waves moved quietly behind us. The house stood there perfect, calm, exactly as I had imagined. But the moment wasn't. I forced a small smile. "I wanted to give you something meaningful," I said. My father finally stepped forward, still looking stunned. "Lily, this is unbelievable," he said, his voice softer now. He looked around again, clearly impressed. But my mother didn't move. She didn't step inside. She didn't smile. Instead, she crossed her arms slightly. "This is unnecessary," she said. The word landed hard. Unnecessary. I felt something tighten in my chest. "I thought you'd like it," I replied quietly. "It's a beautiful place." "It's not about that," she said. "Then what is it about?" I asked. She looked at me for a long second, like she was choosing her words carefully. "People don't just spend this kind of money without a reason," she said. There it was. Not gratitude, not joy, suspicion. I blinked. "I just told you the reason," I said. "It's your anniversary." My father shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Maybe we should at least go inside," he said, trying to ease the tension. He reached for the door and opened it. Warm light spilled out. The sound of the ocean flowed gently through the open space. It was everything I had hoped for. He stepped in slowly, looking around. "This is incredible," he said again. I followed him inside, but my mother stayed at the door for a moment longer. Then, finally, she walked in. Slow, careful, observing everything. Like she wasn't stepping into a gift, but into a situation she didn't trust. I watched her, trying to understand, trying to find something familiar in her reaction. But there was nothing. Just distance. "What do you think?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. She walked toward the living room, touched the back of a chair, looked at the windows, then turned to me. "Did Claire know about this?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. "No," I said. "Why would she?" My mother exchanged a quick glance with my father, a small one, but I saw it. And something about that look didn't sit right. "You should have discussed something like this with the family," she said. Family? The word felt different now. Sharp, defined. "This is my decision," I replied. "And it's my gift to you." She shook her head slightly. "That's not how things work." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said carefully, "big decisions like this affect everyone." My father stepped in quickly. "Let's not turn this into something complicated," he said. "It's a gift." But my mother didn't back down. "Nothing is ever just a gift," she said. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't about the house. It wasn't about the money. It was about control, about expectations, about something deeper than I had realized. "You think I want something from you?" I asked. She didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. I let out a slow breath. "I don't," I said. "I've never asked you for anything." "That's not the point," she replied. "Then what is the point?" I asked again. This time, her voice lowered. More direct, more honest. "The point is, this changes things." There it was. The truth, not spoken loudly, but clearly. How? I asked. She looked around the house again, then back at me. People will talk, she said. They'll ask questions. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so far from what I expected. I didn't buy this for people, I said. I bought it for you. And that's exactly why it's a problem, she replied. Silence filled the room. Heavy, uncomfortable. Because now, it wasn't about misunderstanding. It was about perspective. And ours were completely different. My father rubbed his forehead slightly. Can we just appreciate what she's done? He said. My mother didn't respond. Instead, she walked toward the window, looked out at the ocean, and said something that changed everything. Claire and her husband are still renting. The words were simple, but the meaning behind them wasn't. I felt it immediately. The shift, the direction. This isn't about Claire, I said. But deep down, I already knew. To her, it was. And as I stood there in the house I had bought with everything I had worked for, I realized something I hadn't seen before. This wasn't just about them not appreciating the gift. It was about them expecting something else entirely. Something I hadn't agreed to. Something I hadn't even considered. And whatever that was about to turn this moment into something I never imagined. The moment my mother said, Claire and her husband are still renting, everything became clear. Not slowly, not over time. Immediately. This was never just about the gift. It was about who deserved it. And in her mind, that wasn't me to decide. I stood there, staring at her. You think this house should go to Claire? I asked. She didn't answer directly, but she didn't deny it either. They need stability, she said calmly. They're starting their life. I felt something cold settle in my chest. And I'm not? I replied. That's not what I meant, she said quickly. But it was exactly what she meant. My father stepped in again. Let's not turn this into an argument, he said. But it already was. Not loud, not explosive, but something deeper. Something that had been building for years. This is my gift to you, I said, keeping my voice steady. Not to Claire. Not to anyone else. My mother turned to face me fully now. And what do you expect in return? She asked. There it was again. That assumption. That nothing I did could come from a place of sincerity. I expect nothing, I said. She gave a small, almost disbelieving look. No one gives something like this without expectations. I just did. Silence. Sharp. Uncomfortable. Because now, we weren't talking around things anymore. We were saying them directly. My father looked between us, clearly overwhelmed. Lily, this is generous, he said. But your mother is just thinking about the bigger picture. I let out a quiet breath. The bigger picture? I repeated. Yes, he said. What's best for everyone? And that was the problem. Because everyone had never really included me. Then let me make it simple, I said. I stepped forward slightly. This house is yours. Both of yours. That's it. My mother crossed her arms again. And after us? She asked. I paused, because that question wasn't innocent. It was calculated. What about after you? I repeated. Yes, she said. What happens to it? I looked at her for a long moment. Then I understood. She wasn't thinking about the gift. She was thinking about control, future control. This isn't an inheritance discussion, I said. It could be, she replied. And there it was. The real conversation. The one she had been steering toward from the moment she arrived. You want me to promise it goes to Claire, I said. She didn't deny it. She's your sister, she said simply. That sentence. It carried years of expectation behind it. Years of comparison. Years of pressure. And in that moment, I felt something inside me finally settle. Not anger. Not frustration. Clarity. Because this wasn't new. This was the same pattern, just on a bigger scale. I'm not making that promise, I said calmly. Her expression hardened slightly. Why not? Because it's not yours to decide, I replied. Silence filled the room again. My father looked uneasy. Maybe we should take some time to think about this, he suggested. But my mother didn't move, didn't soften, didn't step back. You're being selfish, she said quietly. That word, it almost made me laugh, because after everything I had done, after everything I had given, that was what she saw. Selfish? I repeated. Yes, she said. You're thinking only about yourself. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. For the first time, I'm thinking clearly. That stopped her. Just for a second. Because she hadn't expected that answer. I gave you this house because I wanted to, I continued. Not because I had to. Not because anyone asked me to. I paused. And definitely not so I could be told what to do with it. The room went completely still, because now there was no misunderstanding left, just truth. My father looked at me, then at her, then back at me. We appreciate it, he said quietly, and I believed him. At least, I believed that he meant it in his own way. But appreciation without understanding doesn't change anything. My mother walked toward the door, slow, controlled, then stopped, turned back to me. If you're not willing to think about the family, she said, then maybe this gift isn't appropriate. The words hit harder than anything else she had said, because this wasn't just rejection. It was dismissal. I stood there for a moment, letting it settle, letting the truth fully sink in. Then I said something I never thought I would. Then don't take it. Silence. Complete. Immediate. Because that wasn't the response she expected. Not at all. What? She asked. You heard me, I said. If this comes with conditions you don't like, then don't accept it. My father looked shocked. Lily, you don't mean that, he said. But I did. For the first time, I really did. Because this wasn't about proving anything anymore. It wasn't about being seen, or appreciated, or validated. It was about respect. And if that wasn't part of the equation, then nothing else mattered. My mother stared at me, trying to read me, trying to find hesitation, doubt, anything she could use. But there was nothing. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn her approval. I was setting a boundary. And she didn't know how to respond to that. Not yet. But what happened next would change everything between us. For good. The moment I said, then don't take it, the entire atmosphere changed. Not slightly. Completely. Because, for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix things. I wasn't trying to explain myself. I wasn't trying to make them comfortable. I was standing still. And that made them uncomfortable. My father was the first to react. Lily, come on, he said, his voice tense. This is getting out of hand. I looked at him calmly. No, I replied. It's finally clear. My mother didn't speak right away. She was watching me, closely, like she was trying to figure out if this was real, if I would back down, if I would soften like I always had before. But I didn't. Not this time. You're serious, she said finally. Yes, I answered. Silence. Then she took a slow breath. If you're going to be this rigid, she said, then maybe we shouldn't accept it. There it was. The line drawn. Clear. Final. My father turned to her quickly. Wait, he said. That's not necessary. But she didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on me. Steady. Testing. Are you really willing to walk away from this? She asked. I didn't hesitate. I already have, I said, because I had. The moment she turned a gift into a condition, it stopped being a gift. And I wasn't going to play that game. Not anymore. My father ran a hand over his face. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. It does, I said quietly. It just doesn't look the way you expected. Another long silence filled the room. The sound of the ocean outside felt louder now, stronger. like it was the only thing that wasn't changing. My mother finally looked away, toward the window, then back at me. "You've changed," she said. It wasn't a compliment, but it wasn't an insult either. Just an observation. "Yes," I replied. And for once, I didn't feel the need to explain it. She nodded slowly, as if she was processing something she didn't fully understand yet. Then she picked up her bag. "Let's go," she said to my father. He hesitated, looked at me, looked at her, then sighed quietly, and followed. They walked toward the door together. But just before stepping out, my father turned back. "Lily," he said softly. I met his eyes. "We didn't mean to upset you," he added. I nodded. "I know." And I did. Because this wasn't about intention. It was about patterns, about expectations that had gone unchallenged for too long, about roles I had finally stepped out of. He gave a small, uncertain nod. Then they left. Just like that. No celebration, no laughter, no shared moment. Just silence. The door closed behind them, and I stood there, in the house I had bought for them, alone. For a few minutes, I didn't move, didn't think, didn't react. I just stood there, letting everything settle, because something had ended. Not dramatically, not loudly, but clearly. I walked slowly toward the window, looked out at the ocean, the same view I had imagined them enjoying, the same place I thought would bring us closer. And instead, it had revealed the truth, a truth I had been avoiding for years. This was never about what I gave. It was about what they expected. And for the first time, I didn't meet those expectations. I didn't bend. I didn't adjust. I didn't try to earn my place. I simply held it. And that changed everything. That evening, I made a decision. A simple one, but a powerful one. I wasn't going to give the house away. Not to them. Not to Claire. Not to anyone. Because this wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was about reclaiming something. My choice. My control. My value. I called my agent. Told them to pause everything related to the transfer. Keep the house in my name. Fully. No conditions. No discussions. No expectations. When I ended the call, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger. Not sadness. Relief. Because for the first time, I wasn't giving something away hoping to be seen. I was keeping something because I already saw myself. But what I didn't know yet was that my decision was about to change how they saw me too. Completely. And the next time my phone rang, everything would shift again. The house stayed in my name. Fully. Quietly. No announcements. No explanations. Just mine. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to tell them what I had decided. Because this decision wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. A few days passed. Then a week. Silence. No calls. No messages. And honestly, I expected